Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. Reports emerging today that Max Verstappen could be facing prosecution after a video emerged of him seemingly breaking the law while driving his Aston Martin Valkyrie around the south of France. If this comes true and if the police act quickly, maybe there's a slim chance it actually affects the outcome of the season. There's been lots of discussions on this. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Now there's been lots of talk about cars, going missing and crashing lately. For example, in tunnels where this Pagani Zonda was found, formerly of Lewis Hamilton's actually. I believe this is like $8.5 million car. Hamilton used to own it. This guy, Mark Radcliffe, bought it. I believe he founded Victorian Plumbing or something in the UK. So he's worth a lot of money. He's a racer and he binned Hamilton's car somewhere a couple of weeks ago now. And I didn't talk about it at the time, but it's kind of relevant to what we're going to talk about today because fast forward to the present day. And here is the Aston Martin Valkyrie, a new car that Aston Martin have recently put on the road. Here's Adrian Newey, who they actually got to do a lot of the design for it, who's also working on the RB17 road car, hypercar project, whatever. The Valkyrie, it's a beautiful car. Here's Adrian Newey, and here's the Aston Martin Valkyrie. Now, Max Verstappen owns one of these, or at least, $3 million. Look at this thing. It's absolutely stunning, and he's driving it around Monaco and presumably the south of France as well. So this is what it looks like. Here's Max Verstappen driving it around. Everyone's taking pictures, and seemingly later in the day from this, or on another day, there was a video, so there was actually two seats in this. It's not just a one-seater car. You can actually get someone in the passenger seat, and that passenger in question was taking an interesting video of Verstappen at the wheel. So, this is it, and, it's a stunning car. I mean, I can't get enough of these images, but we'll have to move on, because this is the real image that people were looking at, with Verstappen going through this tunnel, and the passenger took this image. So we can see that Max, first of all, he's got one hand on the wheel, doing, what does this say, 123, 124 kph. That's worth noting in a second. Now look, this is Max Verstappen. He's obviously in control of his vehicle, but if something's against the law, then people are going to find it. And putting these type of videos on social media, Max maybe didn't even know that his passenger was recording this, to be fair, because he was focused on the road, but putting these type of things on social media might not be the best idea. You can see the carbon fiber. Max has got one hand on the wheel. He's also got this like headset on. It's not a helmet, but it's like a headset, which is kind of like what you'd use when you're actually racing a car, right, to speak to GP and your engineering team. But I'm not sure that you're really meant to have something like this on a public road. That's the discussion. I don't know fully the law and the rules in that region of France. I imagine it was just around Monaco, really, because he can't be driving just in Monaco like this. But, in that region, I don't exactly know what the rules are, of course, but still, people that do know have been writing articles about it. So this is the video in question. Now, apparently, the French police, the gendarmerie or whatever, they don't take particularly kindly to these type of videos and have a specialized cell within the national gendarmerie to track these videos down that are broadcasted on social networks. The possibility is that if Verstappen has been seen to be breaking the law in some way, as I say, he's under control of the car, it's Max Verstappen, but, doesn't mean that he's not necessarily breaking the law. He could be prosecuted on the basis of endangering the lives of others. Now, I don't think they got him with like a speed camera or anything, so they might not be able to prove or have great evidence for the speeding thing, but apparently he was doing 124 or whatever that number was that we saw in a 90 kph zone, or as we saw, 124, 34 kph above the speed. So this is the article that Nice Matin come out with yesterday, discussing this and whether there could be anything in it. And as they say, is Verstappen's attitude reprehensible? Yes, if we analyze the video. The driver, he drives at this speed, which is above the speed limit. He stays on the left lane, which is also prohibited under the highway code. He wears I imagine this is mistranslated from like headset while driving, which is apparently also not allowed. Could he be prosecuted for this video? It is not impossible. People track these videos down, and okay, there might not be an approved speed record there. We only have the image, so it's possible that it's possible they wouldn't be able to do him for that, but they might be able to do him for other things, such as endangering the lives of others. So I mean, Matt, what do you guys think about this? I don't expect anything to happen on this quickly, but it would be interesting. Like if he has broken the law in some sense, and the French police want to make a statement out of it, then they could potentially do something. Now, even if he was prosecuted, realistically, realistically, they're not going to chuck him in jail for 6 months, are they? Like, it's going to be a big fine or whatever, and, you know, we'll see what they do. But maybe there's a chance, and I know that it has been going around as a theory that, okay, what if Verstappen gets stuck in jail for the rest of the season? What would that mean for the season? Would somebody actually be able to overtake him? Well, yes, it's definitely possible, but even if, to be, like, I was looking at the numbers, we'll see them in a second, even if Verstappen was stuck in jail for the rest of the year and was completely, you know, couldn't even drive at all for the last 10 races, he could still win the championship. Like, it's not absolutely out of the question, and we'll see that in a second, that nobody actually gets to overtake him. And there were some great memes going around about this, right? The Orange Army greeting Max Verstappen when he goes to jail. It's pretty funny stuff. Now, I think that everyone probably knows that it's not going to happen, but still, it could be interesting, right? What this means for the upcoming races. Now, let's be honest here. Dutch Grand Prix is going to be fine. He's going to be turning up there. I know people were saying, oh, like, he's going to have to escape out of the cell to turn up to his home Grand Prix. And as Stephanie says, I speak for every Formula 1 fan when I say put him in jail for the next 3 seasons, which, you know, look, it would maybe make the championships more entertaining, because as it stands, Verstappen and Red Bull look like they're going to win everything. So I guess if the gendarmerie are, you know, Mercedes or Ferrari fans or something, then maybe they'll be pushing pretty hard for this. But let's look at the numbers for a second, because this weekend is Verstappen's big day in a sense, right? He goes to his home Grand Prix in the Netherlands. I don't believe he's ever lost there, has he, at Zandvoort? I'm pretty sure he's won every time that he's raced at Zandvoort so far, and he's looking to continue that record. And if he does so, he will match Sebastian Vettel's record from the end of 2013, winning 9 races in a row. So this is a big time for Verstappen. Can break the record of Vettel in Monza if he wins in Zandvoort and then Monza after that. But let's say in this hypothetical scenario, Verstappen is locked up and, you know, can't come out to play anymore for the rest of the season. Who could win the championship? Now, Hamilton and Alonso certainly could, but you've also got to think that for the first part of the season, Hamilton only got 148 points, Alonso got 149 points, and that's after 12 races. Okay, it was meant to be round 13, but we didn't have Imola, so 12 races down, 10 races to go, and Hamilton and Alonso have like 150 points, which is less than half of Verstappen. So if they continued at their current rates of points accrual, then they still wouldn't catch Max. Now, without Max, theoretically, and with, I don't know, De Vries, they bring him back and chuck him in the seat instead, you'd expect Hamilton and Alonso to get more points. So both of them could theoretically still win the title in this hypothetical world, but the far more likely outcome is that Perez would. With 10 races left and a roughly 130 point deficit, 125 point, like, he should be able to overtake that, you would think, Perez. But it is kind of interesting to think that even if Verstappen was somehow locked up for the rest of the season, which isn't going to happen, then he could still potentially win the title in jail in Abu Dhabi if the other guys keep taking each other out and stuff like this, or if his replacement does really well and stops those other guys scoring too many points. Now, the funny thing is for Red Bull, according to Chief Engineer Paul Monaghan, is that even if they were to face some opposition, they still have upgrades to bring. He actually said here, I think we'll see in the coming races what the opposition do, but there will be further changes to the RB19 throughout the season. And this is the thing, like, yes, they're focused pretty much fully on next year's car, as are probably all the teams at this point, but because the regulations are the same, within reason, you can bring things to this year's car that you won't necessarily, it won't affect your next year's car development necessarily if it works for both cars, but if we need to react this year, there's still maybe scope to do so. Like, what would they need to react to, given their car's so good and they're going to win the championships hand down, unless they think, you know what, Mercedes are getting eerily close to us here, let's say over the next 4 to 5 races, and they think, well, we do really want to win 22 of 22, so let's bring some further upgrades to achieve that. But yes, that's a pretty scary sign for the opposition. Few other updates as well I wanted to bring you guys. Firstly, this on Haas, just to look at the amount of points they've scored in the last 4 seasons compared to 2018. Things haven't been going so well. Yes, the Ferrari partnership hasn't really been working so well for them lately, it's got to be said, and even Günther Steiner says they're not sure what development they're going to take for their 2024 development. Maybe part of it is going to be determined by Ferrari, hopefully trying to fix some of these tyre deg issues. Haas apparently are going to bring upgrades to fix their tyre deg, and if they can do that, their car would actually be alright, because it's pretty good in qualifying. But yeah, they reckon it's not going to reappear next year, but do I have faith that Haas can actually do that? I'm not so convinced, to be honest. Did want to quickly touch on this as well from FIA President Ben Sulayem, who was mentioning the 12-team thing in Formula 1. I reckon if you ask the fans, 90% would say that we want at least one more team on the grid. I think 12 12 teams is arguably the optimal number in some respects. 12 teams, 24 cars. I think that's pretty much where I would like to have the sport, but right now it's 10. The FIA, though, it's been interesting that Ben Sulayem has been so gung-ho on saying that he wants more teams, because you'd think that the FIA, Formula One, management, the teams, they kind of, discuss these things. And it's interesting that Ben Sulayem has been so out there as saying that he wants new teams and he wants Andretti to come in and all this type of stuff to kind of try and put the ball in the court of Formula One management and the teams to approve it. And I wouldn't be surprised if over the coming weeks we see the FIA approve Andretti and Hitech for coming in as 2 new Formula One teams for 2026, shall we say. Then it's up to Formula One. Then, he puts the ball in their court to say, all right, guys, now you've got to figure out whether we're going to do this or not, because they're approved, and I think they probably will be, or at least one of them will be in Andretti more than likely. And then it's up to the teams in Formula One to come up with a good reason to say no, of which they will, I'm sure, manage to find some, even if the fans don't necessarily feel that's the case. Also, Théo Pourchaire, who's a big candidate right now to win Formula 2 this year. He's leading the championship as it stands over, I think, Frédéric Vesti, after a bit of a disastrous Spa for Vesti. He's going to be in a free practice session with Alfa Romeo, so he's one of the candidates to look at, just because if he does win Formula 2 this year, he will be a very tempting option for Alfa Romeo to say, you know what, let's just get rid of Zhou and get Pourchaire in. It's probably a reasonable option. I don't think they could be too dissimilar in terms of peak performance levels. I think Pourchaire is all right, but I haven't been massively impressed by him personally. And Zhou has done a very stellar job, I think, especially this season. But that's a question they will have to answer as the season progresses on the Formula 2 side. And just quickly here from Zach Brown saying that McLaren do have title aspirations. Now, I think this might just be a lot of talk here, to be honest, from Zach Brown, because he says, we will have everything we need by January 1st to be a World Championship winning team. We have new people coming in, which should be another contributor to performance. Now, sure, they've got the drivers. Do they have the car? Maybe. I mean, they're making some steps, but I don't think it's enough, let's be honest. And the issue that I always will have is that when you're an engine customer, it's always going to be so difficult to really put together a title challenge against one of the big manufacturer teams like a Mercedes, like a Red Bull, like a Ferrari, whoever's dominant on the day. It's just so difficult to challenge with the best of those, I think at least, when you're a customer team. So I'm not so convinced that I really buy this from Zach Brown, but I'd like to have McLaren back in the title hunt, absolutely. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.